Here we go.
Had I known you were coming, I'd have had the grass cut. I usually don't cut it till Thursday, but tomorrow we have, I don't know if you heard of Be More Baltimore?
Yes.
I mean,
Be More.
Be More Beautiful.
Okay.
Be More Beautiful is a program run by Natasha Neal. Tomorrow, the communities that get money from the city to help clean up, we actually get kind of recognized tomorrow. I think what they're trying to do is to counter whatever is happening. But they deserve to get this negative publicity. If you haven't done the job, then it's your fault. So tomorrow, Wednesday, we get recognized. Our community, this Matthew Henson, we actually have 10 kids to get paid. Most other communities have 5 and 6. We have done so well with it that we've been able to expand. Like last week, we were at Harlem Park. I had our kids go to Harlem Park to help clean up their park because they had a big event there.
Okay.
So I believe just like we can have folks from Virginia and New York come to help us, why can't my community help another community that's having a public event? So that's what we did last Saturday. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate it. And like my videos, I don't like to edit and cut them.
Okay.
Just because I don't want people to think like words were left out or cut out.
And I don't use profanity, so don't worry about
it. Okay. So I guess my question to you, Doc, of course, you are a major part in this community. Everybody knows Doc Chetham. You don't meet anyone that doesn't.
It may not all be good, though.
I've had nothing but good responses when I mentioned your name. So I guess my first question is, how long have you been in this area, and what made you get involved the way you have?
I've been here since 1950. That's the year that I was born. My family moved here. I've lived here all my life. A couple times I moved away, got married a couple times, and moved away. But I said I've never been gone more than 4 or 5 years. My family has owned the house since the 1950s. So there are people that are older than I am that live in this community. But there aren't too many that have lived here longer than I have. I got involved, I came home to retire in 2012. I retired from more than 40 years with the government. Came back here and found not only a drug problem, a leadership problem, but also a trash problem. Our motto is we address as a community both the drug problem and the sanitation problem. So we see a twofold issue dealing with us. It's almost, I had no option. The community has no option. This community is filthy. Some of it is due to the residents, but most of it is due to the lack of proper and I guess timely responses by the city of Baltimore. Many of these problems, you can look at it when you see houses falling down, when you see roofs falling down. You can't blame somebody that doesn't even live in the house. This neighborhood here has 363 boarded up and vacant houses. What do you think is going to happen when people see a house that's not being taken care of? That's where they throw things. That's where people, we've had fires. Right where you are, right here, you see a little space. These were 2 houses that burnt down a year ago because they were vacant. And people live in these vacant houses. This house right here is getting ready to be torn down. I had to report it 2 weeks ago. People are living in these houses. It's the city's fault. The city has the majority blame, but we as residents have some blame as well. And I'll try not to talk to you.
No, you're doing, no, you say what you want. So even though I was only in the abandoned row homes or out, I was on North Arlington, Franklin, in that area.
Okay.
And so I actually ended up getting bit by what they call rat mice, and I've gotten poison oak.
Oh.
And so unfortunately, I was treated for scabies and all that stuff, but it made me think about. I know.
You got first-hand indoctrination.
It made me think about just everyone that actually lives here. I was here for 2 weeks.
Okay.
There are people that live here, and there are a lot of kids that live here.
A lot of kids.
So, then I see the reports of CDC finding parasites in the water. And so my thing is, at this point, I know Hopkins does those city rollout buses for wellness checks. I know the city can say, hey, we should do some free wellness checks in these certain areas, and they can send them here to do so. My thing is, why not do that, especially before the kids go back to school, and just make sure that everyone's okay. Make sure they haven't been...
You want to run for mayor?
No, but I mean, right?
You're 100% right. You are very much on point of what needs to be done, how quickly it needs to be done, and where it needs to be done. The problem is we have elected officials from Senate the Congress, the state, and the city council do not have a clue. We have elected officials that don't even know that an Easterwood community exists. The governor of the city had what's called a new plan. I forgot the name of the darn plan. But we call it the neglect plan because this whole community has been neglected because of the way that they mapped it out. We're not in it. This is the Freddie Gray area. There's no community in Baltimore that can say that they are more Freddie Gray than we are. Our kids are suffering from lead, asthma, teen pregnancy. You name the problem, we have it. But our biggest problem is we have elected officials who really don't know that this community exists. Our congressman's been here once since 2015, and that was because he heard me on TV saying he hadn't been here. Well, he ain't been back here since. That was 4 years ago. We got elected officials that know nothing about this community. These kids are suffering. Yes. They're traumatized, they're ill, their parents are ill as well, and we're not getting the kind of help. And I can only blame one group, elected officials, starting with the city council.
Yes, and I agree. And I don't know, this morning, Congressman Cummings had a forum. I think about 40 people were in attendance.
I wonder who he invited, because my community didn't get invited.
I saw Mayor Jack Young in the audience. I didn't see anybody else. But the forum was about...
And was it here in Baltimore?
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
The forum was about children dealing with childhood trauma. And I wrote on Twitter, excuse me, sir, but you've been in office for 30 plus years. You have contributed to the root of this trauma.
Ouch.
And I know I say things I probably shouldn't.
No,
but
truth hurts. Truth hurts.
But I think he is not even acknowledging his part and his role in all of this. And to me, it doesn't make any sense. He's almost like blaming everyone but himself and his, I call him elitist, the elected officials. Okay. They seem like elitist to me. They, like you said, they don't come to the neighborhoods. I've been here not that long, but I haven't seen any.
You won't.
The neighborhood cleanup, they weren't here.
Nope.
Those people were denied permits to even clean up. So I just wonder what's going on. What do you think is a good solution, even just for right now? What do you think they could do to start helping?
I think, we put this in writing, Matthew Henson Neighborhood Association. We put this in writing. I came back from New Jersey on Saturday night. I know that the folks from the other states had come here to clean up. The Department of Public Works actually communicated with me, asked me for a listing. I gave them a listing of 26 locations that they could go to in the community. We took double the amount of pictures. We took 52 pictures, listed 26 places where they could go. And it was very easy. They found places that we hadn't even listed because that's how bad it is. It's the poor elected leadership that we have, from U.S. Senate, the Congress, to senators, to city council people. They have done a horrible job. Some of them have been in office 15, 20, 25 years. The blame to some degree rests with them as well as the community. Now, as a community president, I accept some blame, because I'm in a community that is suffering. I must not be doing all that I can, but I'm not being paid. I'm not the elected official that has been elected to serve. And it wasn't ironic. You said you've been to these places and you haven't seen the elected officials. That's almost normal, and that's sad.
It is sad.
It's sad.
I find this interesting because I was working alongside Scott Pressler and the one group that came up to clean. Baltimore Public Works didn't give us a list of what to clean. We only went to the places because I had those in my video, and I knew where that trash was. Okay. So I'm wondering where your list ended up.
I tell you who's gotten it. This Friday,
okay.
The city is coming to do a walkthrough through this neighborhood. All of the city agencies that are coming here, all of them have gotten it.
Okay, good. So it is in their hands. Okay.
It's in their hands. The contact person was Councilman Pickett. His office is the one that's coordinating it. 10 o'clock on Friday at Matthew Henson Elementary School, the corner of Presbury and Payson. That's where the walk will begin.
Am I invited?
You're invited. We'd love to have you there.
Yeah.
Love to have you there. One of the things I emailed them last evening, I said, you know what, we did this walk a year ago. I said, you gave us an hour and a half. My community is bigger than most. We have 50 blocks in this neighborhood. We have a little more than 1,300 houses here. 363 of them are boarded up or vacant. This is a very big neighborhood. I said, I physically walk this neighborhood once a week. It takes me 2 hours, and I know what I'm looking for, where I'm going. You're going to give us an hour and a half, and I got all of these city agencies coming and say, one, you're not giving us enough time. If you really want to do a real walkthrough, give us about 3 hours. Let us slowly walk, and let me show you where I'm taking pictures.
Right.
So they can't say, oh, we don't remember the spot. We've given them 52 pictures of some of the worst areas. Not all the areas,
right.
The worst areas
Yeah.
that we have. So, you know, the city, we're happy. They have a program. It's called Be More Beautiful. Our community, Matthew Henson, is doing this with them for the 3rd time. Last fall, we had 5 youth. They were paid by the city, $10 an hour. That was in the fall. We did it this past spring. We are not having 6 kids. They increased us because we did such a good job. We did such a good job in the spring. This summer, we now have 10 youth that are being paid. Every Saturday, we spend 3.5 hours going through the neighborhood clean. Thursday, each one of those kids have to clean up their block,
Nice.
their own block. So we as a community are physically doing all that we can.
Right.
Yes, we're working hard. Yes, the city is giving us funding. But at the same time, city, you are basically the major blame for us having to do what we got to do.
Right.
And some of this, my kids, is nowhere in the world I can let these kids clean up piles and piles. We have one location that is 8 feet tall of garbage and trash. The whole backs of 2 houses are down on the ground. It has been like that for a couple of years. It's sad, some of the conditions that we have. And, you know, yes, we blame some of the residents, but our elected officials, our city agencies, they are, at most part, the major blame. And the fact is, many of these elected officials have been in office 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28 years. We just had a couple just left, been in office 30-some years. Well, if you've been in office, you're part to blame for where we are. And it's sad because the kids are negatively affected. You know, you said very candidly, and you're very much correct. The kids, their health is death-threatening. Their health is very critical at this point because not only do they have regular ailments, asthma, other type of ailments, but the trauma that they are receiving by living in crime-ridden communities, they are coming to school every day having either seen or have heard that their friends and their friends' friends have been shot and killed. And this is every day. It doesn't stop because it's summer. It doesn't stop because it's a holiday. These kids are dealing with this 24 hours a day, and we don't even have enough mental health people to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's an area that we got to look at. The mental health of our kids and their parents, because they're affected just like their kids are.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's what I found when I was working in the city schools in 2014. There is a lot of trauma based on the situation, the living conditions. And I know you mentioned asthma just now. I don't think a lot of people realize, like, when you're in an area filled that has like a rat infestation or a roach infestation, those actually bring on asthma.
That's right.
And so I don't think everybody, you know, knows that or even just talks about it. But, you know, it's like people are affected by the actual conditions. And, you know, you see on the news, the media loves to show Baltimore when they're down and out, right? When something bad's going on, that's when you hear about Baltimore. But, you know, you have to look at it and you say, okay, you want people to act, you know, as civilized as possible. But these living conditions are uncivilized. So it's like, so how do you expect them to grow and do more in this area? Now, I'm going to ask, because I don't play the whole partisan game. I was not a fan of Governor Hogan nixing the red line. What was your take on that?
A total disconnect of him and his administration as to what needs to be done. You know, we look at the red line, but we also look at State Center. Those are 2 major fallacies of this administration. Now, at the same time, the park that we're sitting in, I try to tell it the truth. This park, for the most part, was built because of what the funding we got from the governor. But at the same time, I can tell the truth about the good, but then don't chastise me because I tell the truth about the bad.
Right.
Red line is a major setback for us here in Baltimore City. The only way we're going to begin to improve is not only to improve the conditions, but the transportation, the employment that's in the city. And the fact that the red line could have not only significantly improved our transportation abilities, but it could have significantly gotten people hired, put people to work. You know, we need to look at the infrastructure and transportation to hire people back to work. Those are two excellent areas because so much needs to be done. To kill out the red line basically is killing our community.
I agree. And so to me, I thought a red line would have been essential in getting people to the MARC train. And if you still lived in this area and you worked in DC, right, you're making double, you can bring that back to the community.
Bring it back, that's right. Buy a home, bring it, raise your kid, help improve the schools. That's a whole different matter as
right,
itself.
or buy the whole
system.
block,
yeah.
You know, renovate, you could flip the homes. You could be a landlord, you know, renting out the homes on your block and making sure your tenants clean up after themselves.
I'm running you from there.
No, you're not.
you understand. No. You understand very well the plight of this urban area. I can't speak for other urban areas because I haven't lived there. I've lived here. You know, I try to tell the truth when the truth needs to be told, and then sometimes the truth folks get very upset because you're telling the truth. Well, you know, you shouldn't be upset if it's the truth. You know, you and I first talked earlier, and I said as long as you're telling the truth, tell it. You know, and that's the same way, you know. I try to reach out to Hogan's people. I sent an email to Lieutenant Governor Rutherford and begged him. I sent him pictures of our community. You know, as a neighborhood president, I'd be foolish not to accept whatever assistance someone wants to give us from another political party or whatever. I don't belong to the Democratic Party or the Green Party.
Right.
I mean, I belong to the Green Party, but not the Republican Party.
Right.
I talk about everybody.
Yes.
I fight for everybody. I will help anybody as long as they put my community and my children first. The children and community have to be first. And Baltimore City has failed miserably to help us and our children.
Yeah. So I think going from here, I mean, I would love to see different elected officials. I know that's up to the community to elect certain officials.
We've done a poor job with that as well. Electing people only because of their name, you know, only because they send out 15 pieces of correspondence, but you don't even see them. Right. We got neighbors here, and I have to tell her, like I said, we got neighbors still thinking they're voting for someone that's actually dead.
Oh, wow.
That's how sad it is.
Yeah.
You know, all they know are names.
So you think if someone really came in, cared about the community, knocked door to door, you think they would win the next election as far as, no?
It's going to take a significant education job. Because, see, the problem is the residents need to see people right now.
Right.
You know, not once people start filing for office and then you see them, because the question has to be asked, where have you been the last 3.5 years?
Right.
And right now, there are no candidates running for office that are actively involved in this community, which means we don't have much to pick from. Right. You know, we're going to be picking someone that's got money, that can go out and campaign, but if you ask them the question, where have you been the last 6 months? How many times have you visited my community? And most of these elected officials or candidates can't say they've been here. They're going to have to introduce themselves to their own community. Ironically, you indicated, you know, you walk through the community. I am not an elected official. Someone, if you don't know who I am in this community, the question that I ask, do you really live in this community? You don't know who I am? And I'm a nobody, but I'm a public servant for the community. And I try to do as much as I can to help.
Yeah. Well, I know who you are, and I don't even live here. Okay? So I've heard you on the C4 show. I met you at Gilmore Homes, you know, helping out with the Jobs Plus program.
And Gilmore Homes is right across the street from us. We're fighting, my neighborhood is fighting right now. Not because my community is directly affected with not having a fruit market. My next door neighbors. This is Fulton. Gilmore Homes starts at Fulton.